Hello, Goblins. It's Chris, Eldritch Pipes, and it's this week's Pipes. Slightly later than I hoped for, but a little earlier than I feared. One of the pipes that I was making this week, I was using a process I'd not used before. I'll explain it when I get to it. But it meant that there were some unknowns going on. And yeah, it took me a little longer than I was expecting. But as I say, not as long as I feared. Before I get to the pipes, I'm smoking some Carolina Red Flake with Perique. And it's noticeably colder this last week really. Maybe the beginning of the week was the last phase of it being what you would call warm or mild. But the mornings this week have had a real chill to them, which apparently we should be lucky it's even happening this late. It would have been colder earlier, but it's starting to bite a little now, which is fine. It lets us know winter's coming. A thought I had. I don't know about any of you guys, but there's a series of videos out on YouTube. The one I watch is I think it's called Cool Again Restoration, but there's a whole thing about restoring old things, and they mostly seem to treat the videos in the same way. There's no real talking. You just see them processing the item. It's usually metal workers that I've seen, but they're really lovely to watch. And seeing something old get restored into something shiny and new again is a very satisfying thing to watch. And it gave me an idea of starting maybe a series on restoring pipes. An interesting thought. I don't actually have any really old pipes to restore. So, firstly, I just want to get some feedback on if you think a pipe restoration series would be an interesting thing. And secondly, if people, let's restrict it to the UK for now. If you're in the UK, if you've got an interesting pipe, I don't want to be refurbishing Petersons, ideally, but an interesting pipe to refurbish. That's my phone going off. I should have put it on silent. I did not. Contact me and, actually comment below before contacting me, yeah. And then if someone's got something interesting, I'll contact you. So to the pipes. I won't keep the design a surprise. I have a brace of night gaunt, which is a pipe I've only made once before, and now I've made a few times, but with two quite different treatments. So, let's have a look at these guys. Come on, don't be shy. Yeah. Quite an impressive fellow. The design is kind of a an inspiration from the H.P. Lovecraft monsters that are night gaunts. And then whenever it comes to explaining why, the reasons leave me. But obviously you have their whip tail, which is a feature, and the 3 legs. And I don't think they do have 3 legs. There's something about the number 3, but it eludes me right now. But you get this lovely slant of plateau, which is really created from the angle of drilling onto the burl. And of course they stand. I'm not going to stand on my hand, but they do stand. This one has got pretty chunky rustication. Well, I suppose you'd say it's the facets are quite small, but it goes. There's some depth to it. I don't know if you can tell. And I think actually this stem colour is the same that I did on the original. I think it was Olive Cumberland that I did. I must do one with a red Cumberland stem. Actually, maybe the Amber Flame would be a really great one to do with this design. But then Amber Flame goes with pretty much everything. It's one of those kinds of stems. But yeah, he's a lot of fun to make. A little painstaking with the carving, but that's what we do here. That's the royal we. There is no really anyone else but me. And then I'm sure you can see what's happened here. This is an alchemist night gaunt. Now, ordinarily, so I did 2 things here that I've not done before. Normally, in the alchemist pipes, the resin bonds 2 bits of briar together, and the way that I do it is I cast the briar in resin before I carve the pipe. But with the way that I wanted the resin to be on this pipe, that was not going to work. So I actually had to carve most of this pipe first and then suspend it in resin, which was it caused me some concern. I didn't know what was going to happen. But spoiler, it was all right. Now, actually I'm going to put this down. Unlike the other one, I did just linear rustication. The main reason for that is the tool that I would use for rusticating briar isn't going to work on resin. It's just going to slip about on it. It's just not going to work. So I went with linear rustication that would work on both briar and resin. So the other thing is that I've rusticated resin, which is not something I've done before. I've done it a bit on like stems, but I haven't done it on like clear resin like this, which is it's quite a nice effect. The other thing is that because this is clear resin, I don't know if I've told you before, but on my resin stems, I always use a Delrin tenon. which meant that you would have seen the internals of the delrin being glued into the stem. I didn't want that, so I cast the first part of the stem in black, which seemed to make sense. So, and then it just kind of like also creates this nice transition as well. The pipe being black, the stem comes out black, and then goes into this formaldehyde green. That's quite an interesting feature. You can see the tapering drill disappear as I do the funneling work. So there you go. 2 night gaunts, end to end. These are quite long. I think they're like about 8 inches. The whip tail adds a lot of length. Now, as to the Goblin City competition, let's call it a competition, giveaway, I'm going to give it one more week, I've decided. It needs a little more breathing room before bringing that to a close. So I'll be announcing the winners next week. So, yeah, if you've entered, you'll just need to hang on a little bit longer. And if you haven't entered yet, you've got another week to do it. All right. There you go. So I should be back next week, hopefully, with this week's pipes. Until then, take it very easy. Your loyal pipe maker.